Before you knew it, I was 100 kilos. Before you knew it, I was 120. And then stepping on the scale and sitting at 145, they did what they thought was best to them, but I would never do the same. Then, of course, it went to food. It was just nonstop. It's like, what's actually going on here?
I thought, shit, something's wrong with me.
Yeah. Quite a high link in trauma, I'll say that much. Maybe having a very violent parent. Food understood. Food understood because I didn't understand what was going on.
At 6.
Yeah, I think that's the one that to this day lingers with me at times. That's the one that still lingers at times. I'm glad to have gone through that.
Natassia, I'm very excited to have you on the show, and I have been following you for a while now. So one thing I want to do is allow people that are listening to know a bit about yourself and, how you actually came into the journey of what you're doing right now.
Right. So where do I begin? So Natassia Dsouza, I'm an emotional eating coach. I came to this after my long-standing 65-kilo weight loss journey. However, that wasn't easy. I have been overweight for a majority of my life. I lost all the weight when I was about 22 years old, but that was not the end of my journey. I then gained half of it back because I lost it in a zero-carb diet. So it was done in the most... If I look back now, I was like, that's the worst
diet.
Yeah, I was like that. But that was the diet the doctor provided me. He said, this is going to be your best fit right now. You're the most unhealthiest version of you right now. If you don't do this, it's now or never. So I got on the diet, lost the weight, and then gained half of it back, if not more. And that's when the binge eating started. That's when my obsession with food started and all of that. Once I got all of that under control, so understanding why I was doing what I was doing, I always realized I want to do something to help women. I want to do something in weight loss, but I didn't want to be a trainer. I didn't want to be a nutritionist, even though I am a registered nutritionist. I wanted to do something different. So I said, I'm just going to help women in areas that I struggle. I struggled with food. I struggled with understanding why I'm overeating, why I'm binge eating. And that's where all this started from 2.5 years ago.
That's crazy. 2.5 years ago, and you've done so much so quickly. I've been seeing you everywhere. And I saw your weight loss journey, the 65 kg. It's just, wow. You realize how much it changes you.
Yeah.
And I just want to go on the fact that, you've been overweight since you said most of your life.
Yeah.
Is that something that the doctor said to you, or it's just something that you felt?
To be honest, I didn't feel it until people started calling me out on it.
Really?
Yeah. So when I was around 5, 6, I would hear my mom making comments, and she would say things like, she would say things to her friends being like, oh, whenever I travel, people always tell me, we'll carry your suitcases, you carry your daughter, because, indicating how big I am. So that's when I started listening to it. That's a story that stuck with me till today. Then as I grew older, they're like, oh my God, she's so big. She's so big. Obviously, growing up in high school, getting made fun of, you don't look like your friends. You don't get that kind of attraction and attention from boys. So it just started getting exaggerated from there even further. If it wasn't made that obvious to me, I think I would have just accepted it. But that's when I started realizing, oh, okay, I'm different than everyone else.
Do you think that's something within the South Asian community though? Because we love to point it out if you're fat.
Yeah.
Thing like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like here, it's so crazy because the first thing they'll be like, oh my God, you're so fat. It's like they just start off with that. It's like, oh yeah, I'm good too. How are you? You know what I mean? It's so normal. It's so normal. But they do it either ways. Even if you lost a lot of weight, they'll be like, oh wow, you look like skin and bones. Like, what happened?
Eating.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So I 100%, you hit the nail right on the head. Because I tell this to my clients as well, that come from South Asians. They're like, my mom says this, and I said, look, if you're raised in a Desi household, like they don't know any better. Yeah, they don't know any better. You can educate them. Try, but they don't know any better, and that's the way it's going to be. And that's how it was with my aunts, with my uncles. But as I grew older, I started putting my foot down. I was like, I'm not tolerating this anymore. My parents didn't like that too much. They're like, you can't talk to your aunt like that. Well, I said, well, I don't like her speaking to me like that, calling me thunder thighs. Like, how does she sleep at night? Like, what's making her say something of that sort? So I knew already that this is going to be, I'm in for a ride, but.
Yeah, I mean, I know loads of people that are in the South Asian community. I know this guy I used to go to school with, and his dad used to make him run around in front of all the neighbors, telling him that he's fat and he needs to run more and more.
Oh my
In
God.
front of all these people. Yeah, and that's quite nasty, and it's quite a horrible thing that some people do. And even me, when I was, I don't know how old was I? I think about 13. I think a girl, when she's 13, her hormones are changing, so she naturally puts on weight. Because even I look at some of my nieces, when they're like 12, 13, they start looking chubby and they start losing weight.
Yeah.
I kept getting called healthy.
Yeah. That's such a common one. Like, that's such a common one. You're healthy. Yeah.
You're really...
Yeah.
You're healthy. And it wasn't even just like family, it was like cousins.
Yeah.
So that the aunties were talking about it. They're saying, oh, you look healthy.
Yeah.
You look really healthy.
Yeah.
Wow. You look so healthy. And it's like, and even sometimes if someone's like mentioning, oh, you've eaten too much or something, oh, you're really eating, you kind of feel like, are you attacking me because I'm eating? And I think it comes down from childhood.
Yeah. And the one that never really sat well with me, it's like, oh, it's okay, she has childbearing hips. How do you tell a 12-year-old girl she has childbearing hips? Like, it made no sense to me whatsoever. But that's the kind of comments, and people don't realize how deteriorating that can be to your self-esteem and what it really does to you. They think they're joking. They think they're just making factual statements. But when an individual's actually struggling with their weight, with their self-esteem, self-worth, I was really, really struggling. And then to hear that on the top, you really have little self-value for yourself.
Yeah.
You're kind of like, oh, well, then that's how I am. That's probably what it is.
So do you think those comments made you... Because I think some of my listeners, they might have kids or they might have overweight kids. Do you think that helped you lose weight, or do you think that just made you go into yourself more and just made you more insecure?
Yeah, it made me more insecure. It's very important what you say to your children, the encouragement that you give them, what you make them believe, right? If you provide them that sense of security and that belief that they can do anything, no matter their weight, their height, their color, no matter what it might be, that's what they'll believe. But if you tell them that your weight's holding you back, or because you have this, shortage in your life or incapability of doing something, that's what they're going to believe. And that's what I always thought. And that's why when I lost the weight, one of the main reasons why I gained the weight back is I never loved myself before. Who was I to think? I mean, all I thought was, when I lose all the weight, I'm going to start loving myself. My life's going to be perfect. I was so wrong. And my parents seen how wrong they were as well, because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to talk to people, look at people in the eye. I would talk to men like this with my eyes glazed down, because I was just so, and people can tell. People can take advantage of that. People are like, oh, she can't even look at me in the eye. This is someone I can take advantage of. You know what I mean? So that was a whole learning curve in itself. Can't blame my parents. They did what they thought was best to them. But I would never do the same. I would never. So most importantly, make them believe, even if there's a setback of some kind, provide them help, provide them guidance, but never make them believe that they're not enough.
Yeah. I think it's these little things that happen, especially in childhood, or someone would say something and it really just does stick with you. Like, I had a situation at the age of 13 where I had a nickel reaction and it spread all over my face and all over my body. And it basically looked like my skin was burnt, like on fire. People that knew me would say to me, what happened to you?
Oh my God.
What happened? And it was just really bad. It was like incredibly bad. And I just dropped out of school at that age. So my attendance was low. So I had to drop out of school because I didn't want to go into school with my skin like that. and I had a family member, I'm not going to mention who they are, call me pizza face.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it really does stick with you. And I didn't want to leave the house unless I had a full face of makeup on, and that went on down to like 19, where I was like wearing body makeup to cover the scars. I don't have it now, thanks God, but like I had to go through that.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's like the similar thing because
Yeah.
I constantly thought, oh, minute these scars go, the minute these spots go, I'm gonna feel, good again. I'm gonna feel really beautiful inside.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case because sometimes I feel that feeling again. Sometimes
Yeah.
I think it's because of what happened when I was a child.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
it's crazy how these little things trickle into
Yeah.
adult life.
It scars you. It scars you until you heal from it. Until you look back and you kind of look at yourself from the inside and you be like, okay, I see what's happening here. I see what kind of trauma or damage this has caused me, but I'm willing to work through it. Those are like, now you can look back at that and be like, okay, I seen what happened and I can see I'm much more than these scars or that fear or what happened to me. And I believe that's where the strongest individuals are made, when they can look at their past and be like, yeah, I learned from that.
So in terms of like binge eating and emotional eating, for some people that don't know, what is binge eating?
So binge eating is, in let's say 3 short sentences, someone who eats, to start off with, when they're not physically hungry. They have no desire. They don't have a rumbling stomach or a headache or, they're not feeling that hunger. They just want to eat. They have an intense desire to eat. 99.9% of the time, they're not craving a bowl of broccoli or a salad. They're craving processed, high sugar, high fat food. They're eating large amounts of food, sometimes equating up to 10,000 calories in 2-hour time span. That's how much they'll be eating, give or take. And the reason they're doing that is so that they don't feel an emotion that they're feeling. The reason they're doing that is because they're probably triggered around something in their environment or someone in their environment, and they just want to eat to numb themselves from that. To that, you have habitual binge eaters, because sometimes I'll tell binge eaters, this is what you're doing. And they'll be like, that's nonsense, Natassia. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. That then tells me they're a habitual binge eater. They've been doing this for so long. It's just a habit.
So is it different to someone that, like, because I've got members in my family where they have to have a packet of crisps every day, or they have to have a chocolate bar, and sometimes I'll go in their house and I see like the worst kinds of foods possible, and they have to have it every single night. Is there a difference between someone eating that, like doing that on a nightly, like a daily basis and a weekly basis? Is that a complete different thing?
Yeah, it is. I would say that's more normal behavior, right? That's healthy behavior. A binge eater lives in a cycle. They wouldn't think having chocolate or crisps in their house is even a normal behavior. They believe that they should be restricting, because oftentimes they come from restriction. They've been on fad diets after fad diets, so they come from restriction. The reason they're binging is because this is going to be the last time. To them, that's going to be the last time I'm going to have all of this. And then tomorrow my diet starts. Tomorrow I'm going to be a good girl. So it's always, I'm either binging and gaining weight, or I'm not binging and not gaining weight and not having all these so-called bad foods. So they're eating to the point to feel numb. They're eating to the point of not just one piece, large amounts, right? So completely different scenarios. And
Yes.
when it's binge eater is even different from an overeater, because an overeater everyone overeats every so often.
That's the thing, yes.
Right?
I was just trying to differentiate someone that is an overeater, a binge eater, and an emotional eater. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's 3 different things. And some people might just put it into one category, but it's completely different, right?
It is. So an emotional eater can be an overeater and a binge eater, right? Because emotional eaters are just responding to your emotions. You're feeling sad, hurt, angry, and you tend to go for ice cream. So think about when you were a child and you fell down and your parent picks you up and they're like, don't cry, here's a lollipop, feel better. We then work that into our adult lives and we become this individual that, oh, I'm sad, a lollipop will make me feel better, some ice cream will make me feel better, right? So an emotional eater can be an overeater at times, maybe during Thanksgiving or Christmas, An emotional eater can also be a binge eater if they've started using food as a coping mechanism, food as a crutch. So at some given point in their life, they may have gone through some sort of trauma. They may have gone through some sort of turmoil in their life that they used to find soothing sensations, a coping mechanism from food. So it could have either been food, sex, alcohol, drugs, shopping, and binge eaters turn to food. So that's one of the main uses, let's say, that people would turn to becoming a binge eater.
And what about an emotional eater? They tend to, whenever they go through something, because whenever you watch a movie, right, as a girl, she's gone for a breakup.
Yeah.
She wants Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah,
she
yeah.
orders a Chinese. She's sat there. She's having all of those foods. Would you class that as someone that's like emotional eating? She's trying to like eat away the pain?
Exactly. So I believe everyone emotionally eats at some given point or the other. Emotional eating only is a sign of concern when it's impacting your weight, it's impacting your relationships, it's impacting you wanting to stay in isolation. That's when emotional eating actually is a cause for concern. But other than that, we all emotionally eat at some given point. Like, it's our birthday, let's go celebrate, got that promotion, let's do that. That's a form of emotionally eating for a happy sensation, right? For a happy feeling. So we all do it.
Yeah, same. I do it a lot. Now that I'm like thinking about it, I definitely emotionally eat, 100%.
We all do it. It's only a cause for concern when it impacts your life, when it impacts your well-being, when it impacts your relationships. I see emotional eaters sometimes that are so ashamed of how much they eat when they're alone, when they emotionally eat because of sadness or hurt or anger, that they just want to be in isolation. They don't want to spend time with other people. They don't want to engage with other people because they're worried about how people are going to see them or judge their weight. That's when it's a cause for concern. If you want to isolate and not want to associate yourselves around your friend or family, your emotional eating is getting out of hand.
It's crazy. And a lot of the stuff is like, from my research and the stuff that I've done, it does stem from a lot of it.
Yeah.
From childhood.
Yeah.
And trauma that you've had, and even just the way your parents raised you. Yeah. How did you get into binge eating and emotional eating? What happened to you throughout your childhood for you to get to that stage?
So for me as a child, I'm a victim of sexual abuse. I have been sexually abused 3 times in my life. Once when I was 6 years old, then when I was about 10, and then when I was about 12.
The same person?
No, 3 different men. And for me, food was my friend. Food understood. Food understood because I didn't understand what was going on at 6.
At 6.
Yeah, I think that's the one that to this day lingers with me at times. That's the one that still lingers at times. The others, I can honestly say, I can put my hand on my heart and say I've gotten over. I go through a whole forgiveness process. I've been in therapy for years as well. I have an amazing hypnotherapist that has helped me really get through this trauma in my life. But it's the 6-year-old one that it stings, let's put it that way. And
I mean, sorry, it's just 6 years old. It's just, I've got a niece that's just turned 5.
Yeah.
And God forbid if anyone touched her, they'd be like 6 feet under, and I'll do the time. That's fine.
Yeah,
And
it was so crazy. So it used to happen with the owner of the grocery store that my mom used to send me to go pick up candy from. And I didn't realize something was not right until he was not at the store anymore and his brother was managing the store. And looking back now, I remember telling myself, wow, he doesn't talk to me or touch me like his brother did. And that, when I think of that statement in itself, I get goosebumps.
So it was the brother of the grocery store.
Yeah. And I get goosebumps because I tell myself, oh my God, and I was so young. I was so innocent. But I always felt dirty. I felt wrong. And for me then, going to the grocery store, getting that candy, I remember just eating it so quickly when coming out from the grocery store because it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel good, And then that...
Was that like a reward for like you'd get sweets after, or he'd give you a bunch after or
No, I would just go there to pick up certain items, and that's just how he was, that's just how he was. And I mean, it's dug in so deep now. I don't know. I can't remember how often I would go there in a week's time, but it was a grocery store right around the corner from us. So we would go together, buy candy. I remember majority of it, and I forced myself to remember. I feel like for years, I've just kind of been piling stuff on one over the other, and it dug so deep that it made me into someone that just didn't care, that had no purpose. So I had to dig deep and bring those memories out. So it's fresh. Let's put it that way. I see him. I see what you're doing. And I'm sure something had happened we ended up moving, but I'm sure something had happened over the period of time that took place because he was no longer there anymore. And it's, for me, that was such a difficult time, but I didn't understand the difficulty, and food was my way of kind of understanding and getting through it. And at that period of time, it was just sweets. It was just chocolates. It was just,
Yeah, it's the sugar, right?
Yeah.
I associate like happy, like even when I have a chocolate bar, the feeling that it gives me and the dopamine you release.
Exactly. It's the dopamine hit, right? And my mom, she cooks. She cooks a lot, right? And she used to always have desserts in the fridge. And I could see myself when she'd make those desserts for my dad, how I would go for it. I would be the person that would take when we go to a buffet, I'd take a dessert plate for dinner and I'd take a dinner plate for dessert. Like, that's how much I wanted it. It was beyond greed. It was just, I wanted to eat so much of it, it would never stop. It would just never stop. So that's where kind of it got exaggerated from, and it went to different levels. Then, of course, it went to food, and it was just nonstop. Before you knew it, I was 100 kilos. Before you knew it, I was 120. Then stepping on the scale and sitting at 145, it's like, what's actually going on here? And yeah, it was interesting, but I'm glad to have gone through that.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing that. I'm just so taken back because obviously 6 years old and then 8 and then 12. So it's just a lot. So it's great to see where you've come. But definitely, I agree. A lot of this stuff comes from trauma and a lot of things that we go through. And even me, there's certain things that I won't disclose yet. I'm still dealing with them.
Okay.
And I think when you have to unravel it all and you're kind of like pushing it down, I'm kind of going through that process.
Yeah.
But I had a similar situation where you look at yourself really shameful.
Yeah.
You're ashamed of who you are, and that can happen from some trauma that has happened to you when you were a child or something that you'd experienced. So I'm completely with you on that.
Yeah.
In terms of like your profession and what you do now, before you became a coach in emotional eating and binge eating, what were you doing before that?
So I used to be the retail manager for luxury beauty. I was doing that for years on end. I've worked with some high-end brands. I've had a team of 15, 20, 10, and I loved it. I love makeup. That's my second passion. I always tell people, they're like, how do you feel now that you're doing what you're doing? I was like, look, for years, I help people look beautiful from the outside. Now I do it from the inside.
Right. Yeah.
But I was doing that for years on end, and I love it. I love it. Beauty is I spend a lot of money.
Yes. Sometimes you go into Sephora and you just drop like so much money and you're like, I just came in to get a blender.
I know.
I just needed a sponge.
This is it. And like, people are always telling me, oh, you need to get this. I was like, listen, stop. You need to stop telling me what I need to buy. But yeah, that's what I used to do before.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And do you have a lot, like, helping people look beautiful from the outside and now doing it from the inside? Which one do you prefer more?
I prefer the inside.
Yeah?
I prefer the inside because it's harder. That's why. You can put makeup on anyone and they would look great. I'm not undermining an amazing makeup artist job. I mean, she did my makeup today and she's done a fabulous job.
But I think you'd look fine without the makeup anyway. So it's just naturally pretty, right?
Yeah, thank you. But for me, looking at yourself from the inside, that's not always hard. But when I help an individual break down that barrier and kind of be like, look, this is the part that keeps bringing you back. This is the part that, why you keep choosing food rather than confronting your husband or confronting your spouse or confronting your mom. Let's have a look at this. Like, what's stopping you there? That's the part that I thrive on that, because when an individual gets that sense of realization, that's lifelong.
Mm-hmm.
That's like you're changing the way they view themselves. You're changing the way they view the world. Yeah, I definitely love it more.
So there's different types of coaches, and I'd love to know a bit more about your style and what you do. So let's just say I'm an emotional binge eater.
Yeah.
And I've been eating consistently for 5 years, and I love sugar, I love my carbs, and I've come to you and I need help. What would your process be?
So I have a very different process. So when people start with me, they're so confused because if you're a binge eater, you've probably signed up for a number of programs in the past. And each and every program has told you, here's your diet, here's your lifestyle, get on with it. I don't focus on things of that sort. So for me, your first week is my analysis week. This is where I really look at things in depth and I kind of throw you in the deep end. And I was like, eat whatever you want. I just need to know what goes in your mouth, what time you ate it, and how you felt when you ate. That's it. That's what I want to know for the first week. And everyone gets so confused, get anxiety. Like, what do you mean eat whatever I want? Do you know what I'm capable of? I'm come for binge eating. I know. Just go. They're so scared because they think that signing up with a new coach is not going to give them their resolution. This is going to be it. This is going to be where we stop. It is, but it's also a journey. It took you years to become a binge eater. It's going to take you years to
unfold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what I do in the first week. And then once we get that under control, then I start analyzing what their triggers are, what really triggers them. Is it people? Is it food? Is it habitual? And then we break that down even further. So I'm constantly testing the individual in deep waters to see what comes out.
How do you do that?
The way I do that is I'll give them a calorie limitation for a week. And I'll be like, all right, you get 2,000 calories, use it wisely. So then they kind of go on a meal, they go on their week and they will track their calories and they'll be like, oh, but I'm eating pizza. Okay, I never said you can't eat pizza because my goal is to I have 2 goals for individuals. Let's start with this. I have 2 goals for individuals. I have individuals that come to me that don't struggle with weight, but struggle with binge eating. So they're either bikini competitors or they've got their goal weight now, but they're struggling with binge eating. Right? They just don't know how to control that. They don't want any weight to lose, but they just want to understand binge eating or why they're doing what they're doing. So then they'll get calorie limitations like this because they're just trying to understand their healthy medium. Most of these individuals have either gained weight or lost weight. They've never had a happy medium. So that's what we're doing here. The second group of people struggle with binge eating, but also need to lose weight. So for them, it's very important for me to quiet that noise in their head. And the noise is, you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't eat that. They have a lot of food rules. That's good, that's bad. So we want to take those food rules away. We want to take that noise away and just have them focus on, okay, I can eat. It's not about what I can't and cannot eat. It's about portion control. It's about, I can eat this. If I cannot have it today, I can have it tomorrow. So we do things like delayed gratification, quieting that inner voice in your head and things of that sort. So those are the kind of 2 spectrums of people I work with. And it depends. It depends on the situation. And that's kind of where I don't believe in restriction at all. It has to be flexible dieting. And I interview someone before I take them on board because people always say, oh, well, I want to see if you'll be a good coach. I was like, more than if you want to see if I'll be a good coach, I want to see if you'll be a good fit because this is not another diet. I don't have like a secret recipe in my pocket that I'm going to give you and you're going to drop the weight and you're going to stop the binge eating. No, you're going to have to do the work. And doing the work is looking at yourself from the inside, fighting the triggers, fighting the urges, and expecting to fail.
What are the common triggers that people have, like from your clients or from people that you work with?
So some of the common triggers, stress is a huge common trigger. Food can be a common trigger. So chocolates, there are certain things in your household, if you see it, you can't just have one, right? You need to have the entire thing. People, can be triggers. Environment can be triggers. You could have a certain area on your couch when you sit, where you know, this is my binge and Netflix couch. You know, when I sit here, it happens. So sometimes, like, I do an audit with them about where they sit, what their triggers are. And sometimes it even goes as far as you don't sit on that couch anymore. You don't. If that's where your trigger is, you don't sit on that couch anymore. You sit elsewhere. And it's uncomfortable for them, right? Because you're making me sit on a different couch. It's still a couch. So what's the problem? But that's my couch. But that couch makes you want to eat. Is that what you want for yourself? No. So
Crazy. Do you feel like are a lot of your clients women? Women.
90% of my clients are women, 10% are men. And that's just happened this year. But 90% of my clients are all women. And in emotional eating, there have been several studies done. Women are higher emotional eaters than men. So under times of stress, men tend to go to alcohol and cigarettes, and women tend to go to food.
And is a lot of the stuff like relationship, you know, are they in bad relationships? Are they suffering domestic abuse, or is it trauma that they've suffered from your client experience?
Yeah, so trauma, definitely. I do see a link in trauma, quite a high link in trauma. I'll say that much.
Sorts of trauma.
Sexual trauma, you know, there is domestic violence, there is things of that sort, maybe having a very violent parent, but there's also a biological element, right? There's also the fact that if your mom or your dad was a binge eater, more likely your mom, let's say, you're more likely to become a binge eater. So my mom's a binge eater, right? She used food as a coping mechanism. I never realized it until I went through my own healing journey, but now it all makes sense. It all makes sense. Some of the habits that I do, I see her do it. I've seen her do it, right? Which is, it's crazy. And so when you speak to individuals, I always ask them about their family history, about their family background, if anyone in their household is struggling with weight as well, because that has an impact. It has an impact on how they see food, how they view food, what food means to them, right? So that has a huge impact as well. Another reason could also be, you know, stress. People sometimes may have not gone through trauma in the past, but are now put into these high pressure jobs and are being the best. I work with some high profile women, and these women are sharks at what they do, but then put themselves at the back burner, on the back burner, because they're sharks at work, the best moms they can be, the best employee, the best boss, whatever it is. But when it comes to them, they've put themselves on the back burner, and their way of coping with that stress from work, from being the best mom, is through food, is through drive-thrus on the way home, is through eating after their kids go to bed, you know? So that's a huge one as well that often gets neglected.
Do you have a lot of women where, say, for example, their husband probably isn't eating as much as them, they'd hide and eat their food away from their partner or something like that? The only reason I ask you that is I know someone that is actually a binge eater, and I've seen it.
Yeah.
But when her husband's there, she won't eat like that in front of him, and when he goes, she'll start eating.
Yeah. That's actually a very common tendency for binge eaters, secretive eating. They tend to eat quite perfectly in front of others. So salads, and if you ask them, they're like, I barely eat. I barely eat, you know, and it's a very common response.
It's crazy because I've seen it. She does the same thing.
Exactly. But then the minute your back turns, or the minute their spouse is away, then all of a sudden they want to eat, and it comes out, right? And it's, for me now, I can tell a binge eater will go through a lot of weight fluctuations as well. They'll get very big, they'll get very small. It's because they're going through those whole periods of restriction, then they're going through the periods of binges. I mean, I know I've been there. I've gone up and down 20 kilos, like my life depended on it, right? It's like 20 kilos. That's a lot, exactly. And you see the same tendencies as well. Binge eaters struggle with eating in public. They do. They actually do. Because this is something they do in secrecy. This is something they do in private. They don't want anyone to know about it. It's their shield. So yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
she does it in front of her.
If she does it in front of her husband, she won't eat that much, or even in front of me. And then I'm like, but how are you this? Because sometimes another thing as well is I feel like when we look at human beings, we judge.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I wanted to bring out in this podcast is I didn't want to look at my friend and judge.
Yeah.
because you don't know what health problems that they're going through.
Yeah.
You don't know that it might be a hormone related problem, because some women are just not fat. It might be that they're estrogen dominant and they're retaining loads of water and they look puffy and they're inflamed. So to actually look at someone and go, God, they're so fat in a restaurant, is just really bad from our side as human beings, because we have no empathy when we're looking at them and we don't know what they've gone through. You don't know what they've gone through to get to that size.
Yeah.
And I feel some people, when they look at people that are big, they're just repulsed.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that's fair.
No, it isn't. And it happens so often.
I've seen it.
So often. And I think, I mean, we live in a city, God bless Dubai, I love Dubai, but we live in a city that strives for perfection in a lot of ways, you know? And to see someone that's obese or overweight or struggles with that, it's not the norm. It's not the norm. And people either don't want to be associated with that person, or they have something to say. How could she let herself get that?
Yeah, how did she let herself go?
How could, and you know, you have to understand, Dubai is a very transient country. There are a lot of people here leaving their families behind, leaving the people that they love behind. And so they come here and they're lonely. I mean, I binge ate primarily because I was lonely, right? When I moved out of my parents' house, my binge eating got out of control. And I thought, why? I've just bought my new place. I've living by myself. I've always wanted to move out of home. Why am I binge eating out of control? I was alone. I was in a new city. I didn't know what to do. I had no friends, no one to talk to. I mean, you can imagine if someone's going through that here, it's tough. It's tough. And they need that support system. And for others to sit there and judge. I'm not saying that is a good cause, right?
Yeah, it's not like a body positivity movement. That's not what I'm...
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying that, oh, if you're overweight, that's fine, accept it. Absolutely. Then I wouldn't have strived for weight loss,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is have a deeper understanding. Be there for that individual. See if there's something they're struggling for, if you know them. If you don't, second guess your thought process and say, you don't know what that individual is going through, right? You really don't, because I dealt with over 500 women now, right? And I see all shapes, all sizes, all forms, women that you would never think that are secretly suffering in silence. That's one of my main reasons for doing what I do, because I want to create this safe community that, listen, everyone out there might think, judge, have something to say about you or your weight, but here, this is a safe zone. You can say what you want, you can tell me what you want, and we move forward, you know? And that's something I wish more people understood.
Yeah, because it is definitely something that I've recently started to watch my trail of thought when I see someone walk by. And naturally, as human beings, you know, we judge. We are just the most judgmental creatures in the world. And, you know, my mum might say something about someone being overweight, or recently one of my brother's wives had a child, so she's still got the baby fat. And it's like everyone is judging people for their shape, their size. And I've tried to change my frame of how I think when I see someone that's bigger, because most of the time, especially because I've fluctuated with weight.
Yeah.
Not a lot. I haven't got any issues, but from understanding my own body and hormones and all those sorts of things, I now know that sometimes things are not within that person's control. So recently I learned that we're exposed to so much toxins that our bodies as women, we have excess estrogen, so we hold on to it, whether that might be through perfume, cleaning products, and something that a lot of people won't like to hear, it's caffeine. I've completely cut that out of my diet now, completely. I think it's been 25 days, and when I cut it out, I actually got back from Turkey when I was having Turkish coffee all the time. So I'd have like 2 to 3 coffees.
Yeah.
And then I went down to decaf and I was having 1 coffee a day. When I came back from Turkey, I had like a anxiety attack. And I wouldn't say it was like a panic attack. I don't know what it was. I don't like to say the word anxiety a lot because I feel like a lot of people overuse it.
Yeah.
But basically what I was going through is something was bothering me, and I had that thought come up in my head, and I was just really anxious and my heart was racing, and it was in the middle of the night, and I had tremors. So I was shaking
Yeah.
because I cut out coffee, and then I was having headaches, and I was constantly just worried about something that was going to happen, like something's going to happen, something's going to happen. So I decided to go into like a complete caffeine loop, like rabbit hole of like looking into information and finding out what this was. And I read Caffeine Blues, and I also read that book Flow.
Yeah. I've heard of it.
It's really good.
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
Really good.
Is it?
Yeah, really good. I'd really recommend her stuff. Elisa Vitti. I actually balanced out my hormones because I struggled with PMS,
Yeah.
like really bad. And from reading her book and her vitamins, because they don't ship to Dubai or the UK. And I went on Amazon and bought a bunch of all organic vitamins, the mix and blends that she has. And I take them and my hormones are balanced.
Amazing.
So I would recommend reading her book. But caffeine completely wiped out my PMS symptoms. I don't have like tenderness. I don't get really emotional for 2 weeks. I'm the same.
Yeah.
So, and I lost 3 kg.
It's amazing.
I know. I weighed myself. I lost 3 kg. And it's because basically what caffeine does is that as women, we're not supposed to be super stressed.
Yeah.
Our body's not supposed to take it. Men can take it more than
Yeah.
us. It's just the way that we're biologically made up. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, I'm not a feminist. I'm not saying that we're not the same. It's just that we can do the same things men can. It's just our bodies just react different.
Yeah.
So caffeine actually raises your cortisol levels. And if your cortisol levels are always high, your body's holding on to the fat or the water, and you're holding on to fat. And I've constantly been fluctuating with my weight. And I've been trying to get rid of like 2 kg for such a long time. And the minute I stopped drinking caffeine, I just went, and my partner was like to me, whoa, you've lost so much weight. Because I hadn't seen him for 2 weeks. I was in London. And when I came back, he was like, you've lost so much weight. And I was like, I've been eating more than ever as well. Like, because I was constantly calorie restricted.
Yeah.
I wasn't eating a lot of chocolate. I was like watching what I was eating because I wanted to lose that 2 kg. And then the minute I stopped drinking caffeine, it just changed my life.
It is I must say, it is a game changer. Like I used to have 4 cups of coffee a day. I'm down to 1. And it's that 1 now. I don't have it in the morning because I've read a lot of articles. You shouldn't have coffee as soon as you wake up. I have water, and I have water with a bit of salt in it, like pink Himalayan salt in it, just to get like electrolytes going in your system. But I have 1. But I must say, even dropping from 4 to 1, you know, that anxiety feeling that you're talking about, that feeling that as you were speaking, all I kept thinking was, oh God, I know that feeling so well. That's
so scary.
It is so scary.
Because you feel like it's like a psychological thing. I thought, shit, something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And luckily I have an amazing partner, and he was next to me when I was going through it. And a few days before, I called my brother and I was like, I just quit caffeine. And he was like, same. And I was like, what? And he was like, I've got the withdrawals for like a week. And I remember he was going through the same thing. And he called me and he was telling me the stuff that he was thinking when he was having the withdrawals. And I just think it's one of those things is you should just have it. Just don't have it. Basically, I don't want to say just have it. I would cut it out if I was you, especially if you're a woman.
Yeah.
Only because I've read Caffeine Blues, and I'm actually furthering more and more my research into caffeine.
Yeah.
Something that I don't know. I'm going to look into a little bit more. I feel like something that's so easily accessible. So many coffee shops. It's like a commodity. It's, you know, it makes the world go round.
But you know what? You're on to something, I will tell you that much. Because a lot of the neuroscientists that you listen to talk about how they don't drink caffeine, how caffeine is not in their diet, and how it impacts your health and your brain and your anxiety levels and your stress levels, right? I mean, they're saying it for a reason. They've seen the reactions. They see what it does to your system. And I mean, caffeine keeps you up for a reason. And I know someone that has 12 cups of coffee a day. 12 cups.
You know, I can't even. So if I have 4 cups, I start jittering.
Yeah.
I was touring a house and my face was twitching the whole time. And I remember calling my partner and I said, my face keeps twitching. And I only had 4. Because I'm petite, I'm 5'3", with the amount that I was having, like, it was just too much. It's like the equivalent of me having 8. And it's crazy. 12 cups a day is just not.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, I have my one, and that's it, right? Anything more than that, I'm just like, oh God. Like, no. I don't know how people do what is it? The ventis, the grand, what are they?
The grind.
I don't even know what they're calling them.
People that get the filter out and they like blend the coffee.
Yeah.
They have all the time in the world to do that. That is just not me.
Yeah. No.
But, you know, the coffee crackhead in me, sometimes when I smell coffee, I'm like, get me some. But there's a lot of stuff that I've read about it not being good for the hormones, especially the DHEA hormone.
Okay.
And it's like a hormone that keeps us young. And caffeine actually reduces that. So you actually age more when you drink caffeine.
Really?
So I'm just like, I'm glad I caught this young.
Here's me like dumping all my Nespresso capsules. I'm like, bye.
No, it does age you.
I know, I can imagine. I think I'll get there eventually. It's something like I've reduced significantly, and I think I'm going to take that as my win for 2023.
Yeah, good.
2024, we might let that last one go. I did do it for a period of time. When I first moved to Dubai, I switched from coffee to just green tea. That's it. I just had green tea, and I had this lady who would send my mom Japanese green tea that my mom used to ship here to me, and that's all I used to have. And then all of a sudden, I don't know.
Because the coffee culture,
Yeah.
there's a big coffee culture here. Even I went to Pilates with my friend, and she was like, do you want to go grab a coffee? And I went, do they do food? And she was like, yeah. So we went and sat there, and it's just these beautiful cafes here in Dubai. There's such a big cafe culture here in Dubai. So it's really hard not to drink coffee here. I'm not saying everybody needs to do it, but I have found a substitute on the days where I feel like my energy is like super low. And I don't want to say like everybody should try it. I've done my own research, but it's called maca root.
Oh yeah, I've heard of Raka. And does it work?
Yeah, I feel amazing.
Wow.
I have like 2 teaspoons in warm hot milk, a little bit of honey, and it's like a nice warm milkshake. Really nice. And the energy that I feel when I have that, it's really good.
That's amazing.
Really good. So I don't have it every day because I don't want to get my body used to something. So I have it like every few days.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And it's been great. You can have it with water and stuff. But I've had like dandelion root tea.
Yeah, I've had dandelion's best for water retention.
Yeah.
Best.
Cleans out your liver
Yeah.
enzymes as well.
Love dandelion.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's like, it's in my starter pack to my clients that time.
Really?
Like, yep, dandelion, especially high profile clients that are constantly flying. I'd be like, listen, this needs to be in your travel kit whenever you go.
I've got the capsules.
Yeah.
So I take that, and then what's the other thing I take? Turmeric. It's such a superfood. I mean, we grew up with it, right?
Yeah.
We had it in our food, but we see like now everyone's raving about turmeric.
Yeah. I do turmeric shots twice a week, 3 times a week. And it's really good. It's really good for your skin. It's really good for your metabolism, things of that sort. So, and I cook with turmeric almost every second day, every other day. Only thing is, it like messes up your hand,
Your nails.
and everything, you know, and it's so delicious. But
Yeah. I had to get my nails taken off today because I had blue and they went green because it was grey in turmeric, and I was like, I can't have green nails for the podcast, so I made them quickly take it off. But turmeric is such a superfood. There's a lot of these things that are coming to the market now that we have in our Asian community that has been exposed to us for a long time, like amla oil.
yes,
Did your mum put that on your hair?
yes. Yeah. And I used to hate it.
Same.
I used to hate it. You know, I'd be like, Mom, I don't want oil in my hair. She's like, you can't. You need thick hair. You have thick hair. And this is, and I'm so grateful now.
Yeah, I'm very, very.
You know what I mean? Because like, people always ask me, and I'm sure they must have, like, oh, like, what did you do to your hair? What do you have put in? And I was like, nothing, you know, but it's because of the oil, right? And then the other thing as well is chia seeds, right? My mom used to make a dessert with chia seeds when we were younger. And now chia seeds is all the rave. It's like, oh, you know, it's a superfood. I was like, bro, I've been having this since I was a kid.
Yeah, literally.
You know?
Chia seeds. You can get one of those things at like Coffee Club for like 30 dirhams.
Yeah.
Chia seed pot.
Exactly.
Like, what the hell? It's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, it's nuts. I know. I look back and I was like, okay. I mean, some of the things, they were good. Yeah, they were beneficial. Others questionable, but most beneficial.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of stuff that, like, my mum introduced to us when we were young, and now we're all like, oh God, she was right. She was definitely right about these things, especially when you research it. So, in terms of yourself and what you do here in Dubai, what are your plans for the next few years? How are you looking to expand your business?
Oh, wow. So my plans for the next few years. So business has really taken off this year. Truly, truly, truly taken off this year. I thought I would go another year and a half without a team, but I've finally finalized on that as of this week, maybe a few others. So in the next few years, the goal is to have 2-3 Natassias, because there's only so much coaching I can do. I also want to take my group coaching to the next level, be able to offer it to countries where people are really struggling with obesity. While we have a good number here, a lot of my clientele now are in the UK, in the US, Australia, and I want to expand in those areas much, much more as far as reach is concerned. Whether that means me going and hosting workshops there in person and expanding my my authenticity there in person, that's something I'm yet to decide. But yeah, as much as I love the Dubai market, I love being here. Those are my next goals. Those are my 4 markets that I need to tap into. So that's the plan.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And how have you found anyone that can fill in these big shoes of yours yet?
The goal is, and this is for any of my clients that end up listening to this, the goal is that I will have a client at the end that would want to take on something similar. For me, it has to be the right individual, an individual that has been on the journey, the individual that is a good listener, because you need to be a good listener in doing what I do, an individual that is willing to hold space for other people and guide them to the right path. I think if they meet those criteria, for sure, that would be something that's in the works. Yeah.
Amazing. I'm really excited.
Thank you.
I definitely feel like, 2 years you've started this business.
Yeah.
And it's just completely skyrocketed.
It has. It really. I started this as a hobby. This was a hobby. I said, I'm just going to do it. I'll get certified and see what happens. I never knew this was the turn it was going to take. I'm grateful. I'm super, super grateful. I have so many plans as far as, how things are going to play out, but I'm grateful.
Yeah, of course, I understand. In 2 years' time, with the achievement that you've got, and it's a fulfilling job. It's not something where it's, you're helping a lot of people and people are extremely attached to you and what you've done for them. So there's just like a whole thing that goes behind what you do. It's not just making them lose weight. It's essentially like holding their hand, going through the trauma. You essentially become their psychologist.
Yeah.
I bet, or I'm sure you have a team of people that you refer these people over to at that stage. So I have thoroughly enjoyed having you here on this podcast. And if anybody needs to find Natassia, I will link all her details in the description below. Her Instagram is there. It's been an absolute pleasure having her on. And I will see you guys very soon. Bye.